Have you ever asked an AI a question and gotten an answer that was, well, confidently and completely wrong? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to break down the exact technology that's here to fix that. It's called RAG, and it is changing how we interact with AI by connecting it directly to your data, making it way more reliable, accurate, and just a whole lot more useful. This sentence right here, it just nails it. This is the promise of retrieval augmented generation, or RAG for short. It's all about moving away from those generic, sometimes made-up AI responses and getting answers that are actually rooted in specific, verifiable facts.
But to really get why RAG is such a big deal, we first have to understand the problem it's built to solve. Why does AI even need this kind of help in the first place?
Okay, so large language models, or LLMs, are amazing, but they've got some real limitations. First, they can hallucinate, which is, a very polite way of saying they just make stuff up. Their knowledge is also basically a snapshot in time, frozen when they were trained, so they have no clue about anything recent. And maybe the biggest one, they have zero access to your company's private documents or your own specific data. And this just shows the difference perfectly. On the left, you get this vague, totally unhelpful guess, but on the right, with RAG, you get a precise, actionable answer, and it even tells you where it got the info. One is a dead end, the other actually solves your problem. So how do we get from that fuzzy guess to a sharp, grounded answer? Well, that is exactly where the elegance of retrieval augmented generation comes into play. Honestly, the best way to wrap your head around RAG is with this simple analogy. Instead of asking the AI to remember an answer from its vast, sometimes flawed memory, we're giving it the book, your documents, and letting it look up the correct answer right before it talks to you. It's that simple. So, in a nutshell, RAG gives the AI a library to check before it opens its mouth. The name itself tells you the whole story. First, it retrieves. It goes out and finds the most relevant bits of information from your knowledge base. Then it generates. It uses that specific info to build a helpful and, more importantly, an accurate answer. So how does this open book exam really work under the hood? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the actual engineering pipeline that makes this all happen. You can kind of think of this process in two big phases. The first 4 steps, that's the one-time prep work. You load your docs, chop them up, turn them into numbers the computer gets, and then store them so you can find them fast. The last 2 steps happen in real time, every single time you ask a question. The system retrieves the right stuff and then generates that final grounded answer. Let's zoom in on a couple of these steps. First, chunking. I mean, think about it. If you have a 100-page manual, you don't want to feed the AI the entire book for every single little question. That's super inefficient. So you chunk it, breaking it down into smaller, focused paragraphs. This just makes the whole search process way faster and a lot more precise. And right here, this is where the real magic is. It's called embeddings. See, computers don't get words, they get numbers. Embeddings are what translate your text chunks into these long lists of numbers, or vectors, that capture the actual meaning and context, not just the keywords. This is what lets the system find a section on rules for corporate vehicles when you ask about the company car policy, even if the words don't match exactly. It's a game changer. Okay, so once you have that basic pipeline built, that's when the real fun begins. You can start tuning and tweaking it to get truly production-ready results. The basic setup works, sure, but dialing in the details is what makes it great. The big idea here is that RAG isn't just one thing. It's a flexible system with a whole bunch of knobs you can turn. You get to decide how big your text chunks are. You can tell the system, hey, just give me the top 3 results. That's what top K means. You can even mix a classic keyword search with this new semantic search to get the best of both worlds. These are the tools you use to really fine-tune your system's performance. So how do you know if all that tuning is actually working? You measure it. This is how you move from a gut feeling of, yeah, it seems better, to having the data to prove it. You check if the answers are actually grounded in the sources and if they're faithful to what those sources say. And, this is critical, you measure how good your retrieval is. Are you finding the right info without grabbing a bunch of junk along with it? That's what engineers are talking about with precision and recall. Now, a super common question we get is, okay, this is cool, but when should I use RAG instead of something else, like fine-tuning? And that's a great question because RAG is a powerful tool, but it's not the only tool in the toolbox. Here's the simple way to think about it. Use RAG when your goal is to get answers based on specific, factual documents, especially if that information changes over time. Use fine-tuning when you want to teach the AI a new skill or a certain style of talking.
and use prompting for simple, on-the-fly guidance. They each have their own sweet spot.
And you can immediately see how this just unlocks so many practical real-world uses. Think about customer support bots that can answer questions using the very latest product manuals, or internal Q&A systems that let employees just ask about company policy in plain English, or even powerful assistants that can help you analyze thousands of research papers.
So with all these options and configurations, how can you actually get started on your own RAG project without getting totally overwhelmed?
The absolute key takeaway here is to just start simple. Seriously, don't try to index your entire company's knowledge base on day one. Pick one single data source, use a pretty standard chunk size, and most importantly, focus on getting the retrieval part right first. Because if your system can't find the right information, the best AI in the world can't give you a good answer. Nail the search, and the rest will fall into place.
And that brings us to the end of our RAG Explainer. The technology is here, it's more accessible than ever, and it solves a real problem by giving our AI a library it can actually read. So the only real question left is, what knowledge will you ground your AI in first?